joining us on the line right now, our good friend Tucker Carlson from the Daily Caller, from Fox News, all-round good guy. Tucker, how are you this morning?
Well, good morning, gentlemen. Great.
All right, so yesterday, finally, Ed Henry yells out in a rather impertinent way, but he didn't have any other choice. It's the only way he could get the question in. He said, Hillary Clinton, are you going to answer some questions? She said she would. She mocked him first. Then she said she would. And afterwards, she took, 5 questions. And I'm not sure we know anything more than when we started the whole process. But at least she has spoken. And she says those emails are not mine. They belong to the State Department. Your thoughts?
It's hilarious. Have you ever seen anybody grouchier than Hillary Clinton when Ed Henry confronted her? She was so mad and sarcastic. No, I mean, those weren't real answers.
No.
And answering 5 questions at one event is not the same as running a presidential campaign. I mean, the whole point of a campaign is you expose your beliefs to voters. And she's done the opposite. And by the way, in a very Orwellian manner, claiming that not answering questions is somehow an example of humility, it's arrogant. Of course. She doesn't deign to answer your questions, But I just don't think, and I haven't thought from day one, that Hillary Clinton is running a campaign based on what she believes. She's running a campaign based on who she is. She's running an identity politics campaign as a woman, speaking for all women, and that's the beginning and the end of the campaign. I mean, she's like running as a generic Democrat who will be the first female president. And that's either going to be enough or it's not. But it will not turn on what she's done or what she thinks.
Do you think, Tucker, I think you're a pretty fair observer of both sides of the political spectrum. You have a perspective, but you can judge what's going on the Democrat side in a pretty non-partial way. If you were a Democrat right now, and Hillary is pretty much all you've got. Martin O'Malley is going to announce a week from now, it looks like. But beyond that, I mean, Joe Biden, your sitting vice president, is laughed at. Nobody's taking him seriously. Are they in trouble?
Well, it's the Soviet grocery store. You get one choice, and you're going to like it, and no complaining about it. And she is out of sync, actually, with her base, with
her own
Democratic primary election.
If they want a woman, Elizabeth Warren is actually a much smarter choice, isn't it?
Exactly. And and Martin O'Malley's not a real candidate. I mean, they just elected a Republican in the second most Democratic state to succeed him. That's what a good job he did. And Bernie Sanders is not a real candidate, and Jim Webb obviously is not going to be the nominee. So, I mean, if they had an actual option, that person would win. And I don't care how much money Hillary says she's going to raise. If there was somebody else to vote for, I think Democratic primary voters would vote for that person. And so I've always thought Elizabeth Warren would probably get it in the end. I mean, I'm probably wrong. I often am. But she just is so perfect. She fits the template so precisely for what Democratic primary voters want. Someone who's anti-Wall Street, anti-war, who's not pretending on either score. I don't know. I think she'd get the nomination in a minute.
Do you think any party elders are starting to whisper in her ear as the Clinton campaign continues to stumble a little?
Well, you know what D.C. is like. Everyone's all in. I mean, all of your neighbors, all my neighbors, they all want to be ambassador to Belgium. So they're getting in on the ground floor. They do, of course. I mean, it's not about, anything beyond their personal ambition. I mean, this is everyone I know is like this. And so they're, early money is like yeast, as they say. They've gotten in with Hillary,
right,
and they expect to be rewarded for it. And it would take an awful lot for them to change their allegiance at this stage. But I'm not talking about the people who run the Democratic Party. I'm talking about the people who vote Democrat.
Yeah.
They want an option. I'm completely convinced of that.
All right. So yesterday at the White House, Josh Earnest had this to say about the White House's ISIS strategy.
Would you say that overall the strategy has been a success?
Well, John, yeah. I mean, overall, yes.
Yes, it's been a complete success, according to Josh Earnest, to Jonathan Karl.
Sure, yeah, it's been a complete success. I mean, they've taken over Iraq. I mean, there's that, and they continue to release beheading videos, and we're impotent in the face of that, and they may also take over Syria. But, yeah, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, it's been a fantastic success. It's insane. I mean, I guess what else did they say? I mean, no, they didn't see this coming. They didn't understand because they don't understand the role of faith in people's lives. They didn't see this for what it is, which is a sectarian war in the region between Sunni and Shiite. I mean, they just don't get that. They're always downplaying the effects of religion. This is not religious, it's political. No, actually, it is religious. And these are two strains of the same religion that hate each other on a deep level, and they're fighting a war over those differences, and you don't get it because you're secular and shallow.
But, Tucker, I think you've got some pretty nuanced opinions on foreign policy, and given how the administration has conducted themselves in their, military advisors and ramping up some airstrikes and stuff, it seems like a sort of partial moves, just sort of a token thing. Would it be better for America to just be completely out of this right now and just let them have at it?
Well, it might be. It absolutely might be. I'll tell you what is necessary either way is a clear articulation of what the goal is. Who do you want in the end to run Syria? Who in the end do you want to run Iraq? Let's be precise about it. Do you want the Assad regime to hang on or don't you?
Yeah.
You've got to pick sides at a certain point, and you should do it based on what's best for America. You'd hope the Republican candidates would be encouraging that, but they're not. They can't articulate it either. And by the way, if I could just make an obvious point, if you're a Republican candidate running on foreign policy, is not helpful. I think it's kind of crazy. You have 1 out of 5 American men unemployed. If you can't speak to that, and you're still going off about what's happening in Ramadi, like that's the most important thing to average Americans, you're going to lose.
Lindsey Graham says that he's going to make an announcement. He's all but in. He's going to run. He says he's going to run. So if Lindsey Graham is the answer, what is the question?
I don't know what the question is. First of all, let me just say I love Lindsey Graham. I know him pretty well. I sat with him on the McCain bus in 2000 for months, and I think he's a very smart, very decent person. That said, this is what happens when you have the world's safest Senate seat. You can go and indulge your whimsies, and this is clearly one of them. I don't see a market for the Republican foreign policy. I really don't. These are people who had trouble admitting the Iraq War was a bad idea. They are out of sync with the public on this question. I think they're much closer to the public on economic questions, and they should emphasize those. But, getting up and saying we need to invade another country, or really these people are freedom fighters, let's send them surface-to-air missiles, or whatever the enthusiasm of the day is, there's just not a market for that outside of AEI. There's just not.
Yeah, the other thing is that, we're going to have a cast of about 40 people on the Republican side of the equation. Initially, my thought was, hey, the more the merrier. Let's just, let's get out there and hear what everybody has to say, then we make some decisions. But I'm actually getting to the point where I think maybe I was wrong about that, and maybe it's a bad idea if everybody and their brother runs for the Republican nomination.
Well, and they're not saying anything different from one another. Basically you have Rand Paul versus Rick Santorum versus everybody else. So you've got a couple people who are saying something different, offering a different worldview. And then you've got this mass of, sort of accomplished, decent, intelligent, pretty nice people running, as a herd. And what separates them? Their appearance, their ethnic background, I guess. But they don't have, they're not really offering anything especially distinct. So let's have a debate about what the Republican Party stands for. You could use 3 candidates for that, and the winner gets to define the GOP. That seems like a better system.
All right. Listen, Tucker, we'll leave it right there. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thanks, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
All right. Talk to you soon.